Alright, hello folks and welcome to this Victoria 2 video. It's quite a different approach I have this time because, well, I recorded this a while back and really I couldn't stop myself from cheating. It's true. I thought I'd play this, Mega Germany thing, but Victoria 2 is just, it's a beautiful game, but it's so hard not to use the console, especially because there's no Iron Man, so, and there's a lot of micromanagement things that you have to do that are boring. But yeah, here we go. So I start off as Prussia, of course, thinking I'm the greater Germany. Going straight for the for Schleswig-Holstein there, and my idea, of course, is to pretty much occupy Austria so that they fall out of the secondary power list, or the great power list, and then I can, of course, sphere them and annex them once I form Germany. Before I do that, though, of course, I need Alsace-Lorraine, and so we start a war with Alsace-Lorraine for that. The thing is, I'm using HPM, the Historical Project mod, which is this great mod that has a lot of options and extra flavor and balancing things in it, and it's going to cause quite a few problems. And the game itself is actually going to cause a few problems, which we'll get into in just a bit here. So here I am moving my troops against Germany. Everything's going fine. I'm, of course, playing on quite a high speed because I think, honestly, Victoria 2, one of the things is that time goes a little bit too fast. It's like, if you want, you can play at the highest speed, which is way too fast. And since you don't really need to do anything sometimes, you just end up unpausing and playing at that speed. But let's see here. The thing is, I have hundreds of hours in Victoria 2, and I have a degree in economics, right? Or technically, I'm an economic sociologist. I've studied economics and economic history, and well, Victoria 2 is a beast. Conceptually, I can understand how to play the game, right? You don't, like, a lot of people that are used to other Paradox games will think, oh, I just need to play, I just need to stack up money and then declare war and all of that. But of course, it's more of an economic simulator, so you shouldn't really have these massive reserves. Those should actually be going to your population so that they can invest and consume goods, etc. However, there are also a lot of other aspects in the game that are finicky, like consciousness and militancy, etc. But of course, I played Victoria 2 this campaign, because I wanted to prepare for Victoria 3. And Victoria 3 now has a release date, and I've actually played Victoria 3. I haven't signed any kind of non-disclosure agreement, so I think I'm free to talk about it. I'm not going to review it, though, because I don't feel like it's fair to review a game that isn't really released yet, so we'll see for the release. I've also only really played about an hour or half an hour. I don't really know how much time I played. Because basically I was at PDXCON, and I got to try out Victoria 3, and I got a little slot there that wasn't pre-booked. I just got myself sneaked in there, played, but I don't know when I started and when I ended. I just know that I played as Sweden and had invaded Denmark, and it was really figuring out how buildings and the like works. But yeah, here we can see me form Germany, of course, but the first event that fires was very disappointing because it's obviously Austria-Hungary being like, no, we're not joining, and that was just so frustrating. So instead of that, I go ahead and decide that no, the Germans, the South Germans, the Hungarians, and all of the Austro-Hungarian peoples decided that yes, it's better if we're ruled from Berlin. So I once again cheated and gave myself all the provinces, because that's really what I wanted to do. But at this point, I had already kind of cheated in the wars against Italy because it's just a bit of a slog. So, yeah, console commands, man. Iron Man is just a good thing to have, honestly. So yeah, this is just a war. But yeah, Victoria 3. I'm very excited, I must say. I don't really like. I sat at some panels and watched the devs also discuss the development of Victoria 3. Here you can see me screwing up again. I was like, oh, I'm gonna expand into France, and then I totally missed the fact that there was a province between Champagne and Alsace-Lorraine. So had to give me that again. Had some more with Italy. Had some more with the Netherlands. Started puppeting everyone pretty much. Just went full out. Well, I'm not puppet everyone. The problem with Victoria 2, however, is that you can puppet people and you can sphere people, but the moment that they rise to a secondary power or a great power, they're no longer your puppet or sphere member, which is a pain because say that you decide to conquer the world, right? And you have, I don't know, 50 countries in the beginning, and you start conquering a lot of things. The fewer countries there are, the higher the risk, because it's relative to everyone else. Even if all your puppets are super poor, because you're at the very top, the highest ranking puppets that are really shit anyway will still be great powers. So they'll rise to that level and be independent, which is a pain. I've experienced this creating a mod from an EU4 game I had with my friends. It was a great EU4 game, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna now introduce them to Victoria 2. I created a conversion mod, and the problem is we had conquered so much of the world that immediately a lot of colonial countries and the like became great powers and were immediately out of our control. So, kind of frustrating. Never actually ended up playing that with them, at least. So yeah, I beat up France quite a few times there, etc. Just kept doing the border stuff, and but yeah, as I was saying, Victoria 3. Quite excited. I'm interested to see how, because it's not modeling the economy in the way that Victoria 2 does it. Victoria 2 has a closed economy, so everything that's produced in the world, or like all the goods that are available in the market, are actually produced in the world. That is not the case in Victoria 3. However, it still works out because price or demand and God, what's it called? Here I am trying to sound really smart and I can't even find the word. Supply and demand. So you have your own markets, and you might have a protectionist approach, which of course other countries that have the resources they want might have a protectionist approach. There's also transport costs, etc. So they will you might have a higher price in your markets than otherwise, but technically speaking, goods will not run out, right? However, they can still be very expensive, which is really, for the purposes of economics, is all that matters, because as long as it models that price fluctuation well enough, it's essentially as if a good is running out or has run out. Of course, the elasticity of prices between goods is very different, etc. So I'm interested to see how that works. Also, I'm very interested to see how financial markets are modeled, if at all. I didn't really get that stage of the game. I did get to ask Paul Dupre, which is one of the developers, the QA lead for Victoria 3, during his panel about the whether or not fractional reserve banking was going to be in the game. And fractional reserve banking is very interesting. I don't know if it necessarily fulfills a purpose depending on how the financial system is modeled in the game, but basically fractional reserve banking means that a bank can have, say, you put in 100 euros of savings in your account. A bank can then lend out, say, 1,000 euros based on those reserves that they have of 100, because they calculate that the risk is low enough that they just need 10%, for example, of reserves to cover the potential fact that someone will make a loss or, not pay back on their loans. In the real world, there were a lot of non-limitations during the financial crisis of 2008, and etc. And some limitations were imposed throughout time. I think now, for example, the standard in the European Union is 20%. But it basically means that you can increase the supply of money purely through private banking, which is very interesting. And obviously, that money is also going directly into investments. So yeah, quite interesting. But anyway, I asked that. Didn't really seem. It seemed like something that would be interesting to add, at least. It seemed like Paul Dupre was interested in that, but yeah, since I don't really know how the financial mechanics of the game will work, I don't really know if that's necessarily relevant at this moment. But the immediate thought I had after that was like, oh, but man, imagine all the mods that will come out of this. Maybe not in the first year, maybe not in the second year, but after a few years of Victoria 3, we might have some very interesting economic mods implemented, even if the game itself might not necessarily live up to someone's particular expectations. It might be very good. What I mean here is more that Paradox games are so moddable that, generally speaking, even very niche interest groups can get their interest modeled in a mod. For example, Mayo and Taxes for European Universalis 4 is a great mod, which after I've played that, I can't play vanilla anymore. But that's just who I am. I think it's a more interesting approach to European Universalis. So I'm interested to see what the equivalent of that will be in Victoria 3. Anyway, I don't know what I'm doing here. You can see at least that we have 108 million pops, which is, of course, I guess only adult male pops. And laborers, 26%, 39%. Oh yeah, we're at the end of the game now. Man, totally missed that. So, essentially, I'm just showing what we successfully did here. Mostly a socialist state, but the conservative power is in party, I guess, together with the liberals there. And mostly North German pops, of course. The biggest city was Prague, for some reason, and New York. And here we can see our ranking. Of course, we are above and beyond everyone else. Also because obviously I'm super Germany, but I also did cheat a little bit. So there's that to keep in mind. Anyway, talked a lot about Victoria 3 and less about this game, which honestly, what was there to say? I cheated, I conquered things. It was a bit annoying. Liberated Ukraine, Russia got it back. Kind of annoying. I think I liberated them again, but I basically dismantled like France, Russia, the UK, just everyone several times over. So it was, and Victoria 2 is quite a lot of micromanagement, which you can kind of try to skip, but some things you can't. Like your military is very micro, which I kind of dislike. And honestly, the Victoria 3 system, a lot of people complain, oh, but I do want troops on the map. Honestly, I don't. And I think the new system of not having to deal with like the specific location of troops is such a much better approach to how warfare works and how it worked or developed throughout the 19th century. Because at the end of the day, it's an economic simulator, it's not a military strategy simulator, and it's very hard to model going from, Napoleonic tactics to World War I strategy, frontline kind of stuff. So there you are. There's some statistics over my country. I think we are going to wrap it up here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you follow me. I think I'm going to stream some Victoria 2, and of course I will be playing Victoria 3 when it comes out. This has been GameGabster. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.